Okay. We're going to have a couple of other people are going to log in a little bit later, but they can just join the conversation. But I want to start off by welcoming everyone to the GFBF Talks. And this is our 6th episode, believe it or not. So I would like to say we're getting close to being experts, but we're not. So, but I want to thank everyone for taking the time to log on tonight, and all those folks out there in social media land that are watching in. And before we do introductions, I'm gonna have you guys introduce yourself, but just want to talk a little bit about the Georgia Firefighters Burn Foundation, which our mission is to partner with the fire service and burn care community to provide safety and prevention education, support medical facilities, and assist burn survivors in their journey of recovery. And that's our mission statement. But I think what's key in that mission statement is partner with the fire service. And that's what brings us here together. And it's sort of a natural partnership, I could say, when you talk about fire service and you talk about the Georgia Firefighters Burn Foundation that really focuses on assisting burn survivors. And it's a natural partnership, and we're just excited about coming together on here. And the foundation was actually started, for folks out there who are listening that may not know how that partnership came to be. And it wasn't that the foundation reached out to fire service. The foundation was actually founded by firefighters, some local firefighters right here in Georgia back in 1982. And it just grew and evolved into a statewide agency. And just really wanted to talk a little bit about the background of the foundation so that people will understand how this partnership happens, because sometimes people think we're fire service and we're not. We're just a partner, and it's really an honor to partner with you guys. And we come together tonight, not just to talk about what the foundation does, but we're coming together tonight to talk about the boot drive, the Give Burns the Boot campaign, which is an annual fundraising initiative that this is the 31st year. Woohoo! We want to celebrate that. This is the 31st year of the Give Burns the Boot campaign, but it's a little bit different this year, right? And I want to get into that, for us to talk about that a little bit, because it's going to be virtual this year, and we don't know what that's going to look like. So a large part of this conversation is going to be about fundraising, and no one likes to talk about fundraising. No one likes to do that, but it's a necessary part of a nonprofit operating. And I'm really jazzed about having you guys on here. And just wanted to say that before we got into the introductions, and I do want you guys to introduce yourselves, and we'll do a roundtable, and we'll start with our board chair who's on the call tonight, and I'm jazzed about that. So you can start, Chief.
Hey, good evening. My name is Tony Washington. I am the board chair. I'm representing the board of directors tonight. I am the fire chief for the City of Decatur Fire Rescue Department, and I have been involved with the Burn Foundation since, I would say, the late 80s, early 90s. And I'm just happy to be here to share some of the things, share some of the sentiments about all of our board members.
Mm-hmm. Great. Corey, let's go with you. We'll just keep going.
My name's Corey West. I'm a driver engineer for the City of Winder Fire Department. I've been the chairperson for the Foundation Fire Department for the past 4 years. I've been heading it up with all the boot drive and other fundraising events that we've done in the past.
Okay, great. Glad to have you, and want to get into what some of those activities have been in this conversation. Let's keep going. Jason.
Good evening, everyone. Jason Dooley. I'm the Operations Division Chief for Dawson County Fire Department, and been in that position for a little over a year now. And we completed, we actually reached out to the Burn Foundation earlier this spring when we realized we weren't going to be able to do a in-person boot drive about the virtual boot drive, and they let us know that that was going to be coming up. We went ahead and kicked off our virtual boot drive back in May, and we're obviously not as successful as our in-person boot drive normally is, but raised a good bit of money, and the guys had a good time competing with one another, creating videos to post on social media to try to get donations. So they had a lot of fun with it.
Okay, great. Well, let's go with your counterpart here. Don't want to say your boss, but in the fire service, you're all on the same team. Chief?
Dennis, thank you for having me. Yeah, Chief Thompson here for Dawson County. And I'll echo what Chief Dooley said and Chief Washington earlier. I've been doing boot drives in the state of Georgia now for 30 plus years. I remember going back to my first one in 1988 as a volunteer fireman for the city of Jonesboro. And this year, obviously, with all of us dealing with the current pandemic and the COVID, the boot drive takes on a whole new meaning. And so we looked at, how do we continue a fundraiser? How do we continue this? Got together with the staff and everything. We kind of laid out some basic groundwork for it. And Chief Dooley and Vanessa did a lot of the heavy lifting. But like he said, we made it kind of a fun event for the crews, made it a little bit of a competition and everything. And the videos turned out pretty good. We were pretty impressed with some of their AV skills. They're much better quality than mine, for sure.
Yeah, and those video promos look like you guys had a good time with that, and want to get into the details of that in the conversation so that people out there listening, other departments that are thinking about getting on board, can kind of get a sense of what's that like. The world famous and much loved Chief Webb. We'll go to you next.
Thank you very much, sir. My name is Antonio Webb, and I work with the Atlanta Fire Rescue Department. I am the Deputy Chief assigned to the Aviation Fire Division at Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport. Thank you all for having me on this evening, and it's a pleasure and an honor for me to be here to talk about the boot drive activities and how it impacts the state of Georgia and the Georgia Firefighters Burn Foundation. I've been chairing the boot drive committee within the city of Atlanta now for about 12 to 13 years. I was honored to accept the reins from a very well seasoned battalion chief that retired by the name of Jimmy Hodges. For those who may know Jimmy. Jimmy told me that if I didn't like it, pass it back over to him, and he would take back on those responsibilities until he could find someone to do it. And I was a little hesitant about it, and here I am 13 years later. I love it. So thank you all for the opportunity. Atlanta kind of got off to a late start with this virtual boot drive, but believe me, we are going to be engaged, and we're going to make up for all the lost time that we've let pass by. Can't necessarily blame it totally on pandemic, but there's been a lot of focus and attention on activities that's been going in the city around the country as well, related to the pandemic and other issues that we've been challenged with. So I'm looking forward for the conversation this evening. Thank you much again for having me on the show.
Great. And last but not least, the great, we are so honored to have the great Carla Richter on here tonight. Thanks, Carla.
Hey, y'all. How are you?
Good.
It's nice to see your faces since I don't see y'all, haven't seen you. Well, I'm Carla Richter. This is my 17th year in prevention, and I've been involved with the boot drive and the Burn Foundation since day one with that. So it's been a real great honor for me to work with Dennis and Vanessa and all the staff there. For those of you that may or may not know, I left the state back in November, and so I'm working with Cobb County Fire, and I'm assigned to the Safety Village. Best job in the world. I love it, but it is awesome. I'm enjoying it very much, and we're talking about doing the boot drive there and getting ready and looking for some alternatives as well, because we're like everybody else. the pandemic has changed how we do things in prevention and education. So hopefully I can learn something from y'all, but we're here too as well to learn from everybody else.
Now, when you say best job in the world, you mean fire service in general, right? When you say best job in the world.
Yeah, I know. Absolutely. No, my best job in the world is being a Nana. So that, I guess, is very, very
Oh,
true.
okay.
Love it. Yes, but no, it's been great. It's been a big change, but it's good. So I'm enjoying it. So, and I see some familiar faces out there on the Zoom meeting. So
Okay. Great. Well, then we just so appreciate you guys taking the time to be on here tonight. We know how busy you are with everything that's going on. And before we get into talking about the boot drive, and I'm just sitting here listening to these introductions and how long you guys had been in the fire service and how dedicated you are. And I'd be remiss if I didn't take time to give a personal thank you for what you do. And I'm not speaking as the executive director of the Georgia Firefighters Burn Foundation. I'm speaking as a burn survivor, because my journey began because of what you guys do. So when I say it's an honor, I truly mean that from a personal level. And I've said it before that I never thanked the firefighters. They got me out of a burning house when I was a kid, but I think vicariously I can thank them by thanking you guys. And I just so appreciate what you do and the commitment you have for what you do, because you do make a difference. Far and beyond raising, I know we're here to talk about fundraising, but I had to do that. Anytime I have a platform to say thank you, I never want to miss those opportunities, and from my heart. And I'm speaking on behalf of a lot of folks out there just like me who've gotten blindsided by life and who had a second chance because of what you guys do. So sincerely, thank you for the pandemic has impacted the way everybody's doing stuff. And traditionally, we have had firefighters out on the street corners, out in front of grocery stores and parking lots with the boot in hand, collecting money for the Burn Foundation. And the pandemic is not letting us do that this year. And just really wanted to talk about boot drive and kind of what has worked for you guys. And I know when we had the conversation with Dawson County, there was a fair amount of apprehension about, oh man, we're doing something new. And it's so funny too, because when you guys called us, it was like, hell, we don't know what we're doing either. So let's move forward. And if you guys want to talk a little bit about that, how did you move past that apprehension? Or what were you apprehensive about? Because there may be some people out listening that are having those same feelings, but not making a phone call into the office. What was that like for you guys?
Dennis, I'll start off, and this is Chief Thompson. So again, I'm truly blessed to have a good staff that was forward thinking and, was able, we met one morning and we had good social distancing, obviously. And in that meeting, we talked about how we could do this and how we could make it a fun event for the men and women in the field and still have some collections coming in. Mm-hmm. Challenges that we had, and I think Jason will echo that, was, how do you connect with the community? Because obviously we're used to setting up in storefronts, setting up at intersections, and those have always been traditionally very good fundraising events for us. So now with the COVID-19 and us going virtual, how do you connect to your community in that fundraiser during a pandemic? And that's really, there's no playbook out there. So I think, we were kind of writing it as we were going along. And we just said, well, it's never been done before. So it's not like we can fail. I mean, the worst thing we're going to do is collect some money. And so some of the takeaways, I'll say the challenges were, and you'll see this is, we had people that were able to log in when we posted it on Facebook and stuff, and those direct accounts, and Chief Dooley can talk more specific about those. But we had people that just didn't feel comfortable putting credit card information out on the internet. And so we wound up, after a few days of being into it, we wind up establishing booths and called them collection points at fire stations, and then left the booth there. So that the other challenge to that is all of the stations were on lockdown. So we had to somewhat back off some of our policies from that and allow the stations to come off lockdown. So those are a few of the things that we had to deal with here in Dawson doing it. But it was really, as far as the apprehension, it was just the unknowns. And Chief Dooley and the men and women in the field, they just really, they put all that beside and nailed it. So I'm extremely impressed and happy with the product that they produced. And we're going to do another round here soon.
Great. You want to add anything to that, Jason?
Yeah, I'll just say that obviously it helps if your department already has a social media footprint and a followership. That's going to be key to your success. We've had social media with our department, gosh, for probably 7 or 8 years now, and have built up a followership over the years with putting different information out there, whether it be about weather information or street closures or fire prevention or different things like that. So it helps to have that followership up ahead of time. And then connecting, getting the message out there, connecting to those that are following, and also using other platforms like our county has a Facebook page, and our sheriff's department has one that may reach a few different people. Most of them overlap. They'll follow the same, all the pages, but there's a few out there that you can reach. But like Chief said, on our side, there really wasn't a lot of apprehension from the crews making a quick 1.5 minute video about their specific about their shift and kind of what the money's going towards, and trying to garner a little support for their particular video and competing with the other shifts. I think the biggest, like Chief said, the biggest thing is a lot of folks are a little hesitant to money over the internet, even though it's a very secure link. Either we added the Facebook we did 2 ways to donate. We put a link to the Burn Foundation to our individual department donation link there. And then we also added the Facebook page, which seemed to be, people seemed to like that a little better. It was a little, I guess it was because it was right there, and Facebook, I guess, does a good job of promoting that on its own. So it will push more information out there. So they have that in place. I'm not sure what Facebook, I'm not sure if they get a percentage of donations or how that works. So that might be something to look into, but that was the biggest thing was people were a little apprehensive. So we ended up doing, like Chief said, is making collection points at several other fire stations. So if they wanted to drop money by, they could.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I think people are just more familiar with Facebook. They just are. And I know community, if you would, and I know Chief Webb, you've been talking back and forth with Vanessa about this. And do you think something like that will help in a larger department? Because Atlanta might be maybe 20 or 30 people more than Dawson County. And I'm just wondering, would the dynamics be different in a larger community, and would something like that work? Or what are the plans that you guys have?
So essentially, like I indicated earlier, we kind of got a late start with our virtual boot drive process. Now, this will be the very first time that we've actually engaged in a fundraising event that I've been a part of virtually. So I'm kind of excited about this. So what we're doing, we're partnering with our PIO officer. And because he has a direct contact to the social media land, we're going to rely heavily on him to get that notification out to our supporters and the followers of Atlanta Fire Rescue Department to push our efforts relating to the boot drive. And we'll be very optimistic about it, and believe that we should yield a good fundraising campaign.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is new for all of us, and Chief Washington, if you want to speak to it, because I know at our board meetings, to be honest, we're just really nervous because we've got these programs that the needs don't stop because of the pandemic. So we have those same needs, and we've just had conversation around the board table that we're just, to be honest, and I want this to be a candid conversation, we're just a little nervous. For me, I'd say I'm a little scared about what happens. I believe, doing the right thing for the right reason, the universe supports that. And I don't like to think that I'm a little naive, because I truly believe that. But if you want to share some of the conversations or the concerns we have from the board level.
Sure. As indicated, Dennis, yes, we've had a lot of these conversations. We probably talk weekly about, concerns and what the future holds for nonprofits, period. But also understanding that although the funding is there, there's still a need for services, the services that we provide to our participants, the survivors as well as their family members. So yes, there's definitely a concern, but I know firefighters because I'm one, and we're very competitive, and we serve people. That's what we do. That's what we like to do. So I told them, I said, some kind of way we're going to figure this out, and we're going to make this happen. And hopefully our participants won't suffer too much. We may not be able to provide the level of service that we've done in the past because we have limited funds, but doing a little bit is better than doing nothing. So thank you all for being creative. Thank you all for being innovative. And thank you for what you do, because every day is a different day for us, and we always make things happen. So thank you so much.
Yeah, it does seem to happen, doesn't it? And there are truly needs out there, because the boot drive, the Give Burns to Boot campaign, it accounts for 80% of our annual revenue. I mean, it does. And that's because the foundation was founded by firefighters. I think that's also a point of pride for firefighters. This thing that we founded, we're really a big part of keeping it going. And like this is the 31st year of the boot drive. And it started with 23 departments. The very first boot drive, there was 23 departments, and some of you older heads might remember that. And it grew to now we have over 100 departments every year participating on some level. And that really is a point of pride. But the reality is, the pandemic, because first and foremost, we want people to be safe. First and foremost, that's at the top of the list for all of us. But it really has, as Chief Washington said, it really has. We're pinching pennies where we can, and always want to be good stewards of the gift and the funds that we receive. It really is a gift that allow us to serve people, and that's at the end of the day, that's what we're all about. But with the pandemic being here and doing this virtually, like Chief Webb said, the first time being involved in a virtual fundraiser. I'd like to, Carla, I'd like to talk to you because you've been around forever. What's the motivation? What was the motivation to even be involved or to continue to be involved? Because people are out there listening to this, and this is a good chance for us to remind them why the boot drive is so incredibly important. And what motivated you? What motivates you?
Well, there's so many things, which is really interesting because that's a good question. And the reason I say that is first of all, if you've never been to Visitor Day at Burn Camp, you need to go. Because if that doesn't solidify the mission and the vision of the Burn Foundation, you will never know. I mean, I've been covered in paint, I've been covered in water, you name it and done that. But also it's just that relationship and understanding where the money goes. And that's a big one for me. And without going and being a part of the Burn Foundation itself, you can't really understand that. And that's the biggest thing for me, was knowing what, sorry, my dogs are barking in the background. But that was my big thing, was understanding what it did. And you guys are very transparent. And I really appreciate that, because I'm a numbers girl. But seeing what's going on and seeing what's doing that, and you've always had an open door policy. If anybody has any questions about what you do or how you do it, all they have to do is pick up the phone and call, and they can answer that question, because we went through that several years ago, as you know that. But the biggest thing is just seeing the benefit to the burn survivors and their families. That's a really huge one for me, is seeing how much fun these kids can do. And I think the most important part of that is seeing them be normal for a week. Yeah. And that was the big one, because they're with people, you know, that have similar stories and similar situations, but you forget that when you're there. All they're doing is running around and having a great time and laughing and just being a part. And I think the big kids, like us adults, have as much fun as they do, without a doubt.
Well, the adults do keep the camp nurse busier than the kids do. And I think that's a good segue over to Corey, since we hold the camp in his backyard. And for people who may be listening that don't know what a burn camp is, Corey, if you just want to share you guys' involvement with us being right in your backyard in Winder, just share a little bit of that.
Yeah, it's pretty nice. As most of you guys know, everybody probably knows, is the camp is held at Twin Lakes and at Fort Yargo State Park, which is in Winder. I'm actually stationed at Station 2, which is actually connected to the park. And so we try and get trucks down there. We try and get guys down there pretty frequently. We definitely go on visitors day, and we like to eat with the kids and, you know, do the whole song and dance and all that stuff when we're down there during their visitor lunch. And really, whatever our station, especially Station 2, is kind of like an open door for the camp. You know, whatever's needed, ice and just whatever supplies are needed, you know, we kind of tend to act as that contact. Anything additional needed, resources, we're there. You know, but for the most part, you know, we just like showing up. Just showing up and coming down and hanging out with the kids and playing games with them, and just enjoying being around the kids. And just, it kind of gives you a little bit of value of what you're doing when you're standing out doing the boot drive in the hot summer sun. And, you know, some people obviously, you know, getting agitated trying to, you know, you're leaning in their windows and all that stuff. And then of course you have people, you know, and a lot of people don't really know exactly what that money's going towards. I get asked so often, you know, people think the money's going to the fire department or to, you know, specifically injured firemen, and that's not the case at all. And it's nice to be able to get that information out to people. And then when you're able to actually see the results of your fundraising, that just encourages you to push a little bit harder, to think outside the box a little bit more. To be honest with you, our boot drive is the least amount of money we actually pull in with our fundraising activities that we turn in annually for the Burn Foundation.
And you know, talking about the Children's Burn Camp, it's a week-long program, a residential program with a kid participant, and it's for kids who've been burn injured and their siblings. We've grown now to include the siblings as well, because we recognize, oh, did we lose? Okay, yeah, we recognize that it's not just, when we say burn survivor, we've changed the definition of burn survivor to include not just a person that's physically injured, but everyone who's impacted. And so we've expanded on camp to bring the siblings, because we recognize the child is burned, but how did that impact his brother? How did that impact her sister? They've been impacted too. So we want to provide that for them as well. And it is a lot of fun, but it's fun with a purpose, because all of the activities are geared towards self-esteem, conflict resolution, effective communication, self-esteem. I mean, everything is geared towards that, because we want the kids to leave not just with memories of a good time they had over the week, but we want them to leave with some skills, some applicable life skills that can help them after camp is over. And it's a continuum to 17, but we also have a young adult burn survivor program, where we have a young adult burn survivor retreat for young adults. I don't want to say kids, but young adults 18 to 25, because they're transitioning into adulthood, and the injury and the scars and the impact doesn't go away. So we provide that for that group of folks. And we partner with another foundation out of New York and out of California to bring these young adults together for a weekend program where they can create connection, a support network as they transition over, because there's nothing like talking to someone who's experienced the same thing, you know, because myself, when I was going through my experience, I used to cringe whenever people told me they knew what I was going through or they knew how I felt. And it's like, oh man, no, you don't. You know, no, you don't. But we also have the Burn Survivor Family Program, where we bring the entire family together, whether the child is burned, the parent, the grandparent, or someone in that household has been burned, bringing them together to connect them with other families that share similar experiences. And for us, it's a privilege to bring these folks together. And then we sort of get out of the way and allow them to be together. And we hear people talk about the benefit of it. We hear if a young man, maybe 22, 23 years old, is really struggling, that he can pick up the phone and call somebody that he was at a program with just to discuss what's going on with them. And these things are incredibly important and beneficial. I didn't see another burn survivor. I got burned at 14, and I didn't see another burn person for over 20 years. You know, there were no burn camps. You know, there were no family retreats or young adult retreats for me. So I recognize how important it is, not because I had it. I recognize how important it is because I didn't have it, and what a difference it would have made for my family. And as impactful as these programs are, they don't happen without the funding to support them. You know, which brings us right back to Boot Drive. And I wanted to kind of share the impact of that so that people listening will understand that, yeah, where does the money go? You know, why is it important? It's important because it impacts a lot of people. And you guys get out there and you raise this money, and you do it because you know it's the right thing to do. And I don't know, Chief Webb, if you want to talk about the time you came out to camp, what that was like. I know Carla, when she comes out prepared to get paintballs thrown at her and water pistols and being in the mud games. She comes prepared, so she's a seasoned vet. And
it's fun.
yeah. And for you, what was that like for you, Chief, when you came out and actually saw what your efforts went to?
So for me, I would say, you know, my experience, it was something that I had never experienced before, actually. I was thrilled, I was thrilled and honored to be a part of it. And, you know, I've been in the fire service now going on 31 years, and I had the opportunity late in my career to actually get involved with this. So I really wish that I could have done it earlier in my career, especially when I was much younger than I was, because trying to run around and do everything else, you know, I kind of was quickly reminded that, young fella, you're an old man. So with that being said, you know, it was a humbling experience, and it was a wonderful experience. And it's something that I must say that I would really dedicate myself to doing again before I leave the fire service, and able to participate to do it even after I'm out of the fire service. So I just want to say thank you all for the opportunity to be involved. And again, it all started with Jimmy Hodges introducing me to it, and I've been loving it ever since.
Mm-hmm. And there are so many things that, because we always are very mindful to honor the privacy of those we serve, and we don't ever want to exploit the folks that we serve. You know, we don't want the kids to be in the fishbowl. So when people come out to visit camp, we kind of insist that you get involved in camp. Don't just come. They're not in the fishbowl. Come on and get involved and be there and see. And I hear people say, well, I don't know if I can come out. That's got to be sad to see a lot of burned kids running around. And I think camp and some of the other programs is how we really got Chief Washington hooked in to being on the board of directors, because it's an emotional investment. And what is it, Chief Washington, that is, and always picking up the phone when you see that phone number when we call you?
Okay.
Why is it important to you?
So it's very important to me, you know, like Chief Webb, you know, going to camp is really an amazing experience. It's something that you can't even describe. And I know people call us and want to know, can they just come out and watch? They don't know if they can participate, but it's something for everyone to do. But when you get there, you just automatically connect with the children at camp. And, you know, I'm not a singer, I'm not a dancer. I can't run that fast anymore. I'm a little slower, my old age. But, you know, you get out there and you just get so involved with these kids. Like Chief Webb said, we almost forget that we're older. And when we feel that later. But yes, you know, it's just such an amazing experience to be able to share, to be able to engage with the children and the young adults that, you know, you actually get out on the street and help raise money for. Also, as servants, just because, you know, we like to see the outcome, the good outcome of things. And these are one of the things that, you know, firefighters come out and say, oh my goodness, you know, I made a difference. I had an impact. And that's just such a fulfilling feeling for all of us, especially people that serve in the fire service.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's different. You know, I can say that, and you really have to be passionate about it. I remember when Carla and I first met. It was really interesting. I'm not sure if you remember this, Carla. When I first came to Atlanta, and I accepted this position, I was trying to feel my way, and I remember Carla asking me, knowing I was burned as a kid, she asked me, she said, if I'm offending you, let me know, but I need to know what was the experience like for you, because she was a little nervous about asking the kids and wanted to be respectful, but here I was, an adult, and she apologized beforehand if she offended me, but she still asked the question, and we were able to have a conversation because I understood that she wasn't she wasn't being nosy, straightforward in this, because I knew where it was coming from. And I think that speaks to the involvement of everyone on this call. You know, it's coming from a place of really wanting to be a part of something that's bigger than we are. And, you know, we have a lot of activities at camp. You know, there's the bike riding, there's the swimming pool. The pool is always number one on the list for the kids. But consistently, number two on the list is the talk, what we call talk times. And we bring them together to have a conversation. We bring them together for 1 hour. At some point during the week, the earlier part of the week, we bring those age groups together, and there are no adults allowed, just the kids and me, and it's questionable whether I'm an adult or not. That's always in question. But we don't allow any adults in because the time belongs to them so that they can just talk. And we recognize how important it is to allow the kids to give voice to how they feel. We don't tell them how they should feel. We don't tell them what they should do. Just, this is your time. And it also lets them know that it's okay to talk about it. Years ago, when I first began attending burn camps, and I've had the privilege of attending dozens of camps across the globe. And the mantra used to be, we're going to have the kids come to camp and they're going to have fun for a week and forget about being burned. That's what was said, you know, and it's like, wow, you know, you have these kids who most of them are the only one in their neighborhood or the only one at their school that had this experience, and you bring them together with 100 other kids with similar experience, and you don't want them to talk about it. You know, that's the place. So what we do is we encourage that. You know, we encourage the conversation. We don't have to have answers, and we encourage it. So that's always number 2 on the evaluation list with the kids, and it's just interesting because we're just sitting around in a room for an hour, but they recognize how important that is. And I remember at one of the camps I attended, a young lady, a little girl, jumped off the bus and she ran up and gave me a hug. And she said, I'm so glad that you're back this year, Mr. Dennis, because I've been waiting a whole year so that I could cry again. And that might sound crazy, but if you understand it, because, you know, I wasn't going to cry in front of my parents because it was going to make them sad. And they weren't going to cry in front of me because they needed to be strong. You know, so everybody's got to take care of everybody. And camp is the place going on a deeper level. So it's so much more than true impact that you had on a deeper level. But again, it doesn't happen without the funds to support it. And working in the nonprofit sector, the least favorite part of this job is to fundraise, you know, to beg for money, you know, and believe me, we do beg because it's just necessary. But I stay focused on why we're doing it, you know, why we're asking. And this was just a good opportunity for us to come together and talk about it. And I'd like for each of you just to kind of share some words of wisdom or encouragement for some firefighters or fire departments or local community people who may want to support their department, just some words of encouragement on why they should do it. Because I think everybody should do it. Everybody should be raising money for it. But, you know, I mean, it is what it is. There's a lot of very worthy charities out there, but we're talking about the Georgia Firefighters Burn Foundation tonight. But if each of you would share maybe some words of wisdom. We'll start with you, Jason.
Yeah, Dennis, thanks. I would just say that it's probably one of the more rewarding things that we do throughout our year is getting out there. I know some of the guys, it's usually hot and they're out in the traffic and dangerous and stuff, but I don't think I've ever had a single firefighter complain about being out there and doing the boot drive for the Burn Foundation. And I think one of the things that helps me understand and motivates me to continue to push them to do it is each year when we do the Firefighter Appreciation Day, the luncheon that you guys sponsor, and the survivors that talk at that. And I was going to suggest that, and that's a big thing, is getting your mission out there and what you do for these survivors. So I think if it's possible with their permission to maybe post those videos, I don't know if there's a way to link those videos maybe to your YouTube page or your Burn Foundation website. And so we can link those to our virtual boot drives and let the folks out there see exactly what their money's going to. And I think that would go a long way to garnering more donations for the foundation.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Great. Chief Thompson, I know you've been, like you said, you've been doing it forever. Even back when you were, I think, volunteering at Jonesboro, or back your volunteer days. Where did that come from, or what did it for you that might work today for someone who may be on the fence about getting involved?
Well, you know, going back to those days, I was a rookie firefighter, so I did what the chief officer told me to do back then. Mm-hmm. But looking ahead and everything, I think, you know, we truly have an opportunity, even in this current pandemic, to continue with the mission of the Burn Foundation to continue to be able to provide the necessary donations so that these burn victims and burn survivors can enjoy these programs that have been well established here in the state of Georgia. And I think the state of Georgia prides itself in the fact that we do have one of the best burn foundations in the country.
Thank you.
You know, and how do we get there, and how do we continue that in this crazy 2020? I think we're all ready to go to 2021, and I'm good with starting that tomorrow if anybody wants to jump on board with that. But like I said, I think there's a way for us to get this. Dennis, I would suggest one thing maybe to you and your board, and it kind of ties into what Chief Dooley said. Maybe establishing that brief PSA that if departments want to do this virtual boot drive, you guys establishing that public service announcement so that the departments that have those social media platforms like Alana, the Cobb, DeKalb, and they have those well-established PIOs, that would help them to be able to sell it, because that was one of the things that we saw here on the back end. Something else that we didn't think about here in Dawson when we did ours, and when we do it again next time, is tapping our Chamber of Commerce, because they have that business community that can help you as well. Get out there in your community and hit some other donors and stuff of that nature. But yeah.
Okay, great. And there are other things that departments do aside from being out on the corner. And then, Corey, you want to share your tourney last week, which I thought was amazing, seeing how many teams you had in the golf tournament. You want to share a little bit of what you guys did last week?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Now, it wasn't the first year we've done it. So last week we held our annual golf tournament that we hold every year, that all the proceeds go to the Burn Foundation. Everything we get goes to it. And I think that kind of goes back to what was just being said about getting businesses. And that's what's great about the golf tournament, is it really reaches businesses. That's who your main focus is. Your golf teams, your hole sponsors. As a all, we ended up with 21 golf teams and about 32 hole sponsors for the event. We had Zaxby's donated the lunches for all the players. I mean, very minimal expense was actually spent from any money raised. The only thing we actually had to pay was the fees per player to the golf course. All the whole sponsor signs were donated. We didn't pay for any of that. We didn't pay for lunches. We didn't pay for snacks. We didn't pay, pretty much the only thing we had to pay for. We didn't pay for waters or drinks. Everything was donated. And that was all businesses. All that is coming out of businesses. This was the 5th year we've done the golf tournament. We've also done 5K races in the past as well. At one point, we tried to do the 5K race and the golf tournament in the same year. We're in a smaller town, so we got away from doing that because we were doubling up on sponsorships, and we found ourselves asking businesses for money twice a year, and they did it, but they were splitting their funds, and so we were actually losing money because we were trying to support 2 events and really bringing in the same sponsorship monies in the long run. So we decided to focus on the golf tournament. And actually this year, even with the pandemic, the tournament, usually we do it in May. We postponed it because of everything, and we did it last week. And we had there was the highest turnout we've had so far in the 5 years we've done the tournament. The most teams showed up and played this year. We actually maxed out the golf course, which was pretty nice. And people get to come out and have a good time, and it is a different population. We're not
it was pretty impressive.
Out their ashtrays and boots, right? I mean, we're actually getting dollar bills and money turned in. And the good thing about businesses, this is all a tax write-off, which is something else that we can push, and we have pushed, that this is tax write-off. This is a charitable donation from businesses We send them, a letter stating that they donated this much money to this event for a charitable donation, and they can write it off their taxes. And so it benefits them also.
Okay.
And granted, we kind of have a little bit of an advantage having the camp in our backyard, and we did the parade every year comes through town, so the businesses kind of understand a little bit when we say burn camp. They know what that means. It gets advertised and published, and people show up, and for the parade, the kids come through town and all that stuff. So they do have a little bit of understanding, but it's minimal. It's not. I don't want to say minimal effort, but when you're talking about people doing it, it's only 2 or so guys that do this tournament when you're talking staff wise. And yet you reach out to your firemen and you say, hey guys, where do you guys work part-time? Who's your part-time employers? Get them to hold sponsor assigned. Get them to put a team in the golf tournament. I mean, if you just think, we have 30 full-time firefighters. Well, heck, if each firefighter got one team or whole sponsor, I mean, that would just explode. And we've already had a good success. Matter of fact, our other events, such as the 5K or the golf tournament, brings in more money than our actual boot drive. The boot drive is only about 1/3 of the money that we actually bring in annually for the foundation. So it's actually exceeded kind of what we were expecting. And each year it gets easier because the same teams play every year. Then you add a few more the next year, and every year you do it, the event gets bigger and easier to run at the same time.
Yeah, well, it was pretty impressive, and I'm glad you shared that, because it may give people some ideas that what can we do? Well, maybe you could do that, and so there are a lot of different things people can do. There's another fire department that does a Boston butt cook-off, and they sell about 90 Boston butts every year, and that goes towards draft. So it's just about being creative, and now creative than ever. And I know Chief Webb, and I know we're rounding up on our time. We got about 5 minutes left, but I know you always put a lot of effort into motivating your guys at it in Atlanta. Do you think this is going to be easier or more difficult getting them motivated?
Well, I think that it won't necessarily be a major task in having them to communicate, to ask people to what it costs on this virtual platform. I think that we would still be able to utilize some of our motivating, I would say, challenges, extending those out to them to get them more involved and engaged with it. It does not look like we're going to be playing on the field this year. So as a result of that, we may have to resort back to what we once did with looking at the highest contributing stations, the games and that forth, and do something special for them just by getting them to get more engaged in what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
So again, I think that they'll be up for the challenge.
Okay. Great. And with the time we have left, Carla, you wanna share a little something? And I'm not sure if you remember when we first met and you put that question to me, but wanted to give you a few minutes to just share anything that you wanted to share about your motivation for supporting the foundation and how important that is.
It's funny because I had forgotten that, because we friends for such a very remember that, and just that question came out of my mouth. I'm like, Lord, because those of I don't always have tact, so it was just, but it wasn't a place, because as you become involved with camp, you are with the kids, and you definitely don't want to hurt someone's feelings or offend them, and you come at a place of love and respect, and just I'm so, because they've been through so much, but they still found ways to have fun and laugh, and it was just amazing how how that was for me. Being motivated is that right there, but also you know, one of the things that nobody mentioned, which was kind of interesting, is that as a fire department that actually participates, you get money back, or you get smoke alarms or something back to help your local jurisdiction, which is a great thing there. And for those of you that don't have a huge budget, you can get smoke alarms, you can get, you know, stickers or whatever to give back into the community, or resources to help you with prevention. So that right there in itself is a no-brainer. But like I said, once you go to camp, once you understand better, it's just so easy to get caught up into it. And just how much fun, but everybody, none of us do this for the money. We all do it because we love what we do. And so this is just such a wonderful partnership. And I've loved being a part of it for 17 years. And I'm so honored that I still get to stay involved with the foundation.
Hello, hello. Did we lose you?
No, not here. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Okay. And it's interesting you mentioned the incentive because I have that on my checklist, and without my glasses, I totally overlooked it. But 10% of the money that departments raise, it's an investment credit that goes right back to that department to support their safety and prevention initiatives. And one of the things that we decided to do this year, with everything being different, actually for 2020 for the virtual boot drive, 20% of monies raised by the department will actually go back to that department for their safety and prevention initiatives. And actually had a conversation with someone at a department a couple of weeks ago about that very thing, because they were trying to buy a dog and they didn't have it in their budget, and they totally overlooked the incentive. And once we had the conversation, they had the funds to purchase a dog to do trainings with. So yeah, thank you for bringing that up, Carla, because yeah, this year is 20%. So departments that are struggling with the budget or looking for a few extra nickels somewhere, this is
awesome.
a way to Chief White, did you want to say something before we close? Because it's our time now. And
I would just like to say, on behalf of the board of directors and all the personnel at the Burn Foundation, we just want to say thank you to all of you that have supported us, all of you that will support us in the future. We appreciate you. We understand who our stakeholders are, and firefighters, you are one of our stakeholders.
yes.
And whatever we can do to support you therapeutically, we're here for you. We're just one call away. And we just appreciate all the passion that you've had for the burn survivors and their families, and for the foundation. And we appreciate all of your efforts.
Yes, yes. And in echoing Chief Washington, and on behalf of the foundation, we do thank you. And like our tagline says, help, hope, and healing beyond the burn. And it's because of you that we're able to provide that help, hope, and healing beyond the burn. So thank you guys so very much for everything that you do. And when I said thank you earlier as a burn survivor, I also want to include your families, because you wouldn't be able to do what you do without your families making the sacrifice as well. So thank you, but thank your families as well. And continue to stay safe, continue to do what you do. And we're hoping that someone listening has gotten motivated to give us a call and get on board and get involved with this Give Burns the Boot campaign virtually, as we call it. So you guys stay safe, continue to do what you do. And if you have any other ideas or suggestions, please reach out to us at the Burn Foundation. All right. So there's our time. And again, thank you guys so. All right. I think it's a wrap.
Thank you.